an interfaith movement. Each week we come to you on Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. to bring you the organizers, movement and thought leaders, electeds, business leaders, community members, cultural workers, and artists who are creating solutions to the issues that impact your life on the local, state, national, and international levels. I am your host, Amani Braxton. On the boards tonight is technical producer and engineer extraordinaire Troy Wilmore.
I'm your huckleberry.
Thank you, Troy. And I'm excited about tonight's show. We have a couple of guests joining us to speak about an op-ed or an opinion piece that they wrote in the Inquirer a couple of weeks back, which I have been meaning to get them on to discuss. The piece is called "Phillies Unvaccinated Aren't All Conspiracy Theorists or Anti-Vaxxers. They've just got bigger problems than COVID." And those guests are Dr. Cornelius Pitts and Dr. Lauren Kogan, who co-authored this piece. So I'm very interested in talking to them about their project and what they're learning about the real needs of those who are unvaccinated in the city and why they are not getting vaccinated, why certain neighborhoods are not, have low vaccination rates against COVID-19. I also want to spend some time talking about the late, great Bell Hooks, who passed away this past Wednesday. The powerhouse scholar, educator, writer, author of, I believe, 40 or more books, crossed over into the realm of the ancestors Wednesday afternoon, and was such a powerful and influential thinker, a public intellectual, and who really married theory and practice, and covered both issues of race and feminism, but also talked about love. And as we celebrate our women's empowerment programming today, I thought it would be apt to talk in depth about the life of Bell Hooks, who really brought Black women from the margins to the center in scholarship on feminism, on white supremacy and racism, and in discussions of love. She had a profound impact on me and on many generations now of young people, although I'm not so young anymore, but when I first read her, I was young in college, and had such a profound, I think, impact on our culture that many of us may not even realize. So I'm going to close out the show talking about the late, great Bell Hooks. Of course, each week we welcome you as our primary guest, and to join in the conversation, you can dial 215-634-8065 or 1-866-361-0900. You can listen online at wordradio.com. Of course, some of you are streaming on our app, and we are live on Facebook at onWURD, as well as on Twitch TV. So there are a number of things before we invite our guests into the conversation in a bit. There's a few headlines that I've been following and paying attention to this week. The first being that Derek Chauvin, the murderer of George Floyd, pled guilty to violating George Floyd's civil rights in the federal civil rights case that was against him. This was a change from his previous position. I think he was not initially planning to plead guilty, but this guilty plea represents a plea deal that will allow him, from my reading of it, will allow him to serve his sentence, which I believe is up to possibly 25 years for this violation of civil rights. It will allow him to serve this sentence concurrently or simultaneously with his criminal sentence, which I believe was 22.5 years. So it will not be tacked on as an additional number of years, but will be served concurrently. So that is the benefit to him by pleading guilty. And, you know, I think I would perhaps like to see him get more years, but I think it is a powerful message that he has pled guilty to violating George Floyd's civil rights, and hopefully will be the harbinger of a trend to come in any future cases like this of police brutality and misconduct and police murder of Black people, that we will see convictions, plus not only on the criminal charges, but convictions also on the civil rights side, because it's certainly warranted. The other thing catching my eye and my mind this week was, of course, the revelations coming out of the Special Congressional Committee that's investigating January 6th. There were numerous text messages were shared from members of Congress, as well as personalities from Fox News who were communicating with President Trump at the time to try and get him to stop the insurrectionists on January 6th. We're also beginning to learn of the broader conspiracy implicating Trump, his cabinet members, and members of Congress to, in an organized fashion, overthrow the election results. A coup, in fact, the attempted coup. And I think not enough of us have allowed that to really sink in. Perhaps we as listeners of WURD, as conscious listeners of WURD have, but I think the broader public and the broader media have not really hit this point home. There was an attempted coup in this country. And that's pretty powerful, pretty serious. And I think that's why when I discussed last week during Biden's democracy summit, his global democracy summit, that we had been placed on the list of democracies that are in the backslide, that is why. Speaking of President Biden, he indicated that voting rights is the priority legislation that needs to jump the line, move forward ahead of the Build Back Better plan, which has been in perpetual negotiation. The Build Back Better plan, you know, part two of the human infrastructure side of the infrastructure package of the two bills that he wanted to pass. The second bill, the Build Back Better plan, has been in perpetual negotiations, basically with Senator Joe Manchin, the so-called Democrat from West Virginia. So Biden has indicated that voting rights is actually more important at this point to move up to the front of the line, so to speak. And of course, many are feeling positive about that, but I think, like myself, remain skeptical that that can even pass. When you're jumping a line for legislation which is being held up by the antiquated filibuster rule, it's hard to know if jumping the line actually has any significance, because that legislative action on that may also be stalled indefinitely. And we are running out of time, as all of these states where Republicans are in control of the legislature are passing crazy laws which will, in some places, could overturn election results in those states if the Republican majority does not like the outcome of election results in those states. So that is something we will have to wait and see, how the voting rights legislation package moves forward, if it's able to move forward, and if those in the Senate will dare to push the ending or amending of the filibuster rule in order to allow these things to move forward. The other thing I noted today was the new state legislature district maps, or proposed changes to the state legislative district maps were revealed. And most analysis shows that it will be potentially positive for Democrats in the House, that it could lead to Democrats potentially being poised to take the majority in the House, the State House, which would be great, which would be a move forward in the right direction. However, the article that I read about it today in the Inquirer says that the proposed new maps may be better on the state Senate side for the Republican Party in the state, entrenching their position and their control of the state Senate. So we will see if any tweaking happens to those proposed new maps. I think this is a period where there may be some changes, some last minute shifts and wranglings of how the district maps will look, but we will have to follow that and see what happens with that. So look, we are almost up on our first break. On the other side of this break, we will be joined by Dr. Cornelius D Pitts and Dr. Lauren Kogan, both of Temple University, to talk about what is behind people's reluctance or people's lack of motivation to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And this is, of course, more important than ever as we move into this period of the Omicron variant spreading rapidly. You are listening to Solutions on Word with Amadi Braxton, Progressive Black Talk Media. We'll be right back.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
We have some fire department activity on 95. It's southbound between Woodhaven Road and Academy Road. The left lane's blocked. Traffic going back to Street Road. Looks like we've got a brush fire in the median there. Further southbound, we back up through the construction, Cobbin Avenue to Bridge Street, then again Betsy Ross Bridge to Allegheny, and then in Delco, we back up Ridley Park to the Commodore Barry Bridge. Coming back northbound, we slowed down Chichester Avenue to the Commodore Barry, also the Vine Expressway to Cobbin Avenue. Schuylkill, that's heavy eastbound, Blue Route to Belmont, and the Boulevard to University Avenue. Westbound backs up University Avenue to the Vine, and the Boulevard out to Belmont. We got a crash Spring Garden Street eastbound right at the Schuylkill Expressway. Report brought to you by Mattress Firm. Hurry into Mattress Firm's year-end sale. Get a king bed for a queen price or a queen bed for a twin price and save up to $500 on select mattresses from Sealy, Serta, Sleepy's, and more. Plus, get a free adjustable base with a qualifying purchase. For more traffic information, just log on to sigalert.com. I'm Jason Lee with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, an NBC 10 First Alert weather update on WURD Radio.
Tonight, cloudy rain is possible after midnight and a low of 41. Then rain is likely heading into Saturday, especially during the morning. Cloudy, patchy drizzle towards the afternoon, and another round of rain is expected at night. Daytime highs back down to our seasonal average, 48 degrees. On Sunday, mostly sunny, windy, and chilly, a high of 43, but feels like temperatures will drop to the high 30s. Monday, mostly sunny with a high of 42. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Brittany Ship.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing sites at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. The second testing location has been added at Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School. Testing is on Wednesdays and Fridays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
Phyllis Carter, owner of A Part of Me Boutique, invites you to check out Aziza's unique, one-of-a-kind, original designer fashions. Prepare to be blown away. You deserve something special. Join A Part of Me, located at 3834 Lancaster Avenue, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, December 17th, 18th, and 19th from noon to 4 p.m.
WURD Family. WURD Radio's 12 Days of Christmas campaign, presented in partnership with the Philadelphia chapter of 12 Days of Christmas, Inc., is quickly coming to a close. Start or renew your 4WURD membership by this Friday, December 17th, and $15 will go toward the purchase of Christmas gifts for underserved children and families in our communities. And if you're already a member and wish to donate, call WURD Radio at 215-425-7875. This season, children, get the gift of WURD and give the gift of joy to family and children right here in our communities. Start or renew your membership now at wordradio.com. Listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions. I'm your host, Amadi Braxton, Progressive Black Talk Media, and I'm really delighted to have our two guests this evening here to join us in a conversation about the COVID vaccination and the COVID vaccination process, and explore some of the reasons why they have discovered through their work in a particular project through Temple University and other partners, what they've discovered about the reasons why people are not getting vaccinated in certain communities and certain neighborhoods and sections of the city. So I first want to introduce Dr. Cornelius D Pitts. He's a licensed pharmacist in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with a background in clinical research, having served as a director of neuroscience clinical research at GlaxoSmithKline for 26 years. He has served on the board of the Health Promotions Council of Philadelphia and was chair of the NAACP Health Committee. Dr. Pitts is a founding director of the nonprofit Miriam Medical Clinics. The clinics provide holistic health care at their North and South Philadelphia locations. He's currently an adjunct instructor at Temple University's Lewis Katz School of Medicine and a director of the COVID-19 Vaccine Project, an effort to increase vaccine access in underserved Philadelphia communities. He also teaches global health at the University of the Sciences, Philadelphia College of Pharmacy. So welcome, Dr. Pitts.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
And we also have Dr. Lauren Kogan, an assistant professor in the Department of Media Studies and Production at Temple University. Her research addresses communication for development and social change, both domestically and abroad, focusing on issues including the empowerment of marginalized groups, violence against women, and peace building, as well as communication about development and social change work, and specifically how development-related issues and events are framed for American audiences in the mainstream news media. Much of her work also focuses on evaluations of communication for development interventions. So I'm excited to dig into this with you both in terms of your areas of research and interest, and a little bit about what led you to this project and collaboration. So you both are involved in this COVID-19 vaccine project. Maybe we can start with you, Dr. Pitts, a little bit about your background and what led you to your work now, working in underserved communities, and particularly this vaccine project.
Sure, I'd be glad to address those issues, and thank you for having us again. As you had mentioned, I'm a pharmacist by profession, and as such have done much work in the community in addition to my professional background as a clinical researcher. But I've been working in the North Philadelphia area for a number of years and collaborated with Temple University School of Medicine for a number of years. And in that community, you know, we've certainly really dealt with the health disparities over the years, and now fast forward, moving on to COVID, you know, those health disparities have a headlight has been shown on those health disparities, as it were, and in that, you know, we have come across much hesitancy as far as the vaccine is concerned, and people that are accepting of the vaccine. I became fascinated with that area because of the various health disparities and just wondering how that hesitancy might lend itself to the many disparities that we already see, not to mention the public health need for combating COVID-19. And so in collaboration with Temple University Katz School of Medicine, Miriam Medical Clinics, and Zion Baptist Church, which is right in the neighborhood as a trusted partner in this area, I was asked to lead this project and to collaborate with others at Temple University.
Okay, great. Dr. Kogan, I would ask the same of you. You know, I read in your bio a lot about communication for development is an area of your work, and communication for development and social change. What does that mean? How do you define what that is? I think I have an inkling. I myself I have background as an outreach worker in the health setting around HIV, and so I know the importance of communication when you're trying to connect with people around issues of health. So talk a little bit about your area of research and what that means, communication for development and social change.
Sure, yeah, and thank you for asking me to explain that phrase because it's very confusing to a lot of people. So one way, I mean, we hear a lot about using communication to create change, and one way of thinking about that is thinking about using communication to craft messages, to get populations to do things, to change their behaviors, especially related to health. Another way to think about that is thinking about getting affected populations to use their own voices to create change. So an example of the former would be where you have an organization coming in and trying to get a community to change their behavior, like getting vaccinated. You hear these campaigns on the radio all the time, right? Go get vaccinated. It's safe and effective. It's often about changing behaviors, often in the realm of health. Exercise more, don't drink and drive, that sort of thing. And then another kind of project, which gets called something like communication for social change, starts from the idea that outsiders might not really understand what's making populations engage in certain behaviors or not engage, and that a better approach is to talk a lot with people, really try to understand what's going on. And what you often find is that the thing you thought was standing in the way of change is not really the thing that is standing in the way of change, that there's something else going on. And the people who are affected by a problem are much more likely to understand what's at the root of it than outsiders are.
So, and then Dr. Kogan, in terms of how you got involved in this collaboration, I mean, you're coming at it from a communications and social behavior change perspective, you know, joined with the healthcare perspective. I mean, they're obviously connected, but how did this collaboration come about?
Well, Neil and his team reached out to us, so I don't know if Neil, you want to take that on.
Sure, I'll be glad to. So it's interesting, you know, as you mentioned about creating change and changing behavior in communities and populations, we recognize that at the Katz School of Medicine, we recognized that in order to properly deal with the hesitance that we were seeing, and it was abundant, we needed to have a way of effective communication with those that are in the neighborhoods. Effective communication and messaging. Messaging was key, right? And so how do we then create messages that go beyond it's safe, it's effective? How do we evaluate what that next level is? but that undercurrent of distrust, of misinformation, whatever you might call it, there is an underlayer. How can we get at that? And then how can we create effective messaging that would change behavior? That's where Dr. Kogan and her team come in.
Okay.
And part of the reason I was really drawn to this project was because of the way they were already so engaged in the community and working with them. So clearly they had the right foundation to make this happen.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what the COVID-19 vaccine project does. What are the actual activities of the project? What is involved? And then I'll, invite you to talk about your findings that you allude to in your wonderful opinion piece in the Inquirer.
Sure. So we, through the Katz School of Medicine, we actually are contracted with an organization called Miriam Medical Clinics. You alluded to them in my bio. I've been working with Miriam for some time now. I'm one of the founding members. And in such, we have developed an expertise and an outreach base of communicating and reaching into and serving underserved communities. Basically, we have a number of teams that go out into the communities that are traditionally underserved, and we provide vaccinations not only through just injection, but also through injecting the medical care piece with compassion and kindness, because there's a lot of resistance there that's built on fear. And so if we are patient, if we are kind, if we are compassionate, we have made a friend and we have engendered trust. And so we do 3-4 events on a daily basis. We operate, our teams operate Mondays, 7 days a week in some instances. And so, and we have vaccinated, we've probably vaccinated a member of each zip code in the city. And so our outreach has been broad. We do it at churches, community-based organizations. We do it at, we have done this on street corners. We will reach whoever we can in order to make sure that everyone in the city is vaccinated.
And so are you knocking on doors, or are you're at different sites where you have like a little vaccination clinic set up?
Yes, yes. And so, yes, and what has happened, the way this has evolved, is that individuals, community-based organizations such as churches, as I mentioned, have invited us to do all but knock on doors. We are just about the point where we are doing that. We do home visits though as well. I have to say that. And so yes, to your question, we do some knocking on doors, and we are in a position where we can go literally block by block to do some of our home visits. And so yes, the knocking on doors does happen. We want to make sure that we go to people. We don't want them to have to come to us. That's the issue, because we have found that many people will not go out of their neighborhoods. They won't go into Center City. For various reasons, change of locale, language, you name it. There are a plethora of reasons why people will not venture out of their neighborhoods. And so by going to them, we have already begun to say, we care about you. And that really draws people in. The other thing that we can do, and I can quickly add, is we educate, because we do run up against a large body of vaccine hesitance. And in that, it's more than, and with Dr. Kogan's team's help, it's more than just saying it's safe and effective. The messages that they have helped us craft really help us get at the heart of the matter, so that we can draw individuals in and effectively educate them.
Yeah, it's so important to meet people where they are, as opposed to trying to drag them somewhere, or trying to kind of toss information and statistics at them that may not really connect. So Dr. Kogan, tell us about, in the piece in the Inquirer, you talk about the fact that people are facing bigger problems than COVID, which, you know, some people who listening might say, what problem right now is bigger than COVID? But talk about what you have found in terms of what you're hearing from people as to why they haven't gotten vaccinated, or what are the barriers standing in the way?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think you sort of alluded to this before, but the way you hear about it in the media, it's that, you know, it's anybody who hasn't gotten vaccinated yet just must be an anti-vaxxer, and they must be just refusing to get it. And it's just not really the case. Yes, there are people that fall into that group for sure, that absolutely refuse to get vaccinated. But there are a lot of other reasons for not getting vaccinated. For one, a lot of people are distrustful, as we talked about. They're nervous about the vaccine. They're distrustful of the government. That's not the same thing as saying they refuse to get it. It means they're just not there yet. They need more information. They need more time. Maybe they need somebody to treat them like an intelligent human being capable of decision making and thoroughly respond to their questions and concerns. Mm-hmm. Dr. Pitts has been doing a lot of that. They have good reasons to be skeptical. And on top of that, they have other problems going on that mean COVID is one of their problems and concerns, but maybe it's not currently their most pressing problem or concern. Maybe they're more concerned about losing a paycheck because of the time it will take them to get vaccinated, and then maybe to deal with side effects, and then to get the second dose, and maybe a booster with side effects again. Maybe they've already gotten COVID, so they feel like it's not that urgent that they go get the vaccine, because a lot of these people were out there. They were essential workers. A lot of them were exposed. Maybe their grandma's already been vaccinated, so they're not as worried about getting her sick. So, you know, maybe when dealing with a host of challenges, getting the vaccine is not the first thing that comes to mind in the morning when they're thinking about things that have to happen in order to get through the day. And of course, that feeling of pushing the vaccine down the priority list is going to be exacerbated if you're also distrustful of the government, also concerned about the safety of the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, we're up on our first break already. On the other side of this break, we'll continue the conversation and get a little bit into how the environment that you're working with in this COVID-19 vaccine project is being shifted at all by the Omicron variant emergence, and how you're communicating with people about that. We are here with Dr. Lauren Kogan and Dr. Cornelius Pitts of the Temple's COVID-19 vaccine project. You're listening to Solutions on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. We'll be right back.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Watch for an accident now on 295 in Cherry Hill. It's southbound at 70. We have the two right lanes blocked here, and traffic is heavy back to 73. On the PA side, heavy volume left over from some earlier fire department activity on 95 southbound. It was between Woodhaven Road and Academy Road. We had a brush fire in the median. All cleared out of the way, but delays still with us back to Street Road. More delays further southbound, Betsy Ross Bridge to Allegheny Avenue and Ridley Park to the Commodore Barry Bridge. Northbound jams Island Avenue to Broad Street, Vine Expressway to Coppin Avenue. Schuylkill, that's heavy eastbound, Blue Route to Belmont Avenue, and also westbound we back of University Avenue to the Vine and the Boulevard to Belmont. Report brought to you by Mattress Firm. Hurry into Mattress Firm's year-end sale. Get a king bed for a queen price or a queen bed for a twin price, and save up to $500 on select mattresses from Sealy, Serta, Sleepy's, and more. Plus, get a free adjustable base with a qualifying purchase. And for more traffic information, just log on to sigalert.com. I'm Jason Lee with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, an NBC 10 First Alert weather update on WURD Radio.
Tonight, cloudy rain is possible after midnight and a low of 41. Then rain is likely heading into Saturday, especially during the morning. Cloudy, patchy drizzle towards the afternoon, and another round of rain is expected at night. Daytime highs back down to our seasonal average, 48 degrees. On Sunday, mostly sunny, windy, and chilly, a high of 43, but feels like temperatures will drop to the high 30s. Monday, mostly sunny with a high of 42. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Brittany Ship.
Whatever the world brings, we're always moving forward. Reinventing business, reimagining home, and re-emphasizing community. At PICO, we're redefining support, finding new ways to provide financial assistance, supporting opportunities for good jobs, and uplifting our communities. We're by your side through it all, because whatever the future holds, you're ready to take it on, and we're ready to power it. Find the support you need at pico.com.
Build skills needed for employment through the Philadelphia Skills Forward Initiative, a free upskilling program for workers displaced by the pandemic, those whose jobs are at risk for automation, and Black and brown workers. Complete courses focused on digital literacy, career management, and professional skills for a successful career. Get started today at chamberphl.com.
The Mattress Man is a second-generation family-owned mattress specialist business since 1988. Open 7 days a week, located at 7421 Stanton Avenue. The Mattress Man discounts Serta, memory foam, orthopedic, and ComfortTech mattresses every day. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure you get the best price and best service. The Mattress Man offers same-day delivery on most models to most areas. Ask about the WURD discount. Call 215-424-5550.
Spectrum Health Services, a community health center providing medical, dental, podiatry, behavioral health, and a host of other social services, is looking for medical assistants, patient service representatives, registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, and nurse practitioners who possess professional excellence and world-class service delivery in their DNA. If this is truly you, come work your life's passion and earn your living where your heart is at www.spectrumhs.org/careers.
Word on Jobs. If you're searching for a job that fits your skill set and career goals, visit wordworks.com and view jobs and program opportunities, including the Paradigm Award Scholarship Program for working women with up to $5,000 toward tuition and course-related expenses, or the Philly Shipyard 3-year apprenticeship training program. Also, check out the must-read No Seat at the Table, a detailed expose into the racial reckoning with diversity in the corporate sector, done in partnership with WURD Radio, WHYY, and URL Media. Visit Livelihood at wordworks.com and find the career opportunity that's right for you. Brought to you by Pico and Livelihood at WURD Radio. You're listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions. I'm your host, Amadi Braxton. And we are back again with our guests, Dr. Cornelius Pitts and Dr. Lauren Kogan of Temple University's COVID-19 vaccination project. We've been talking about some of what your project has been discovering in terms of the reasons behind people's hesitancy. And before the break, Dr. Kogan, you were saying that people have bigger issues, or they have competing priorities, let me put it that way, or competing concerns around their lives and their well-being and their ability to earn money for their families and things like that, that may make getting a COVID-19 vaccine not the most important thing in their life. And Dr. Pitts, you talked earlier about the larger inequities in our healthcare system that you know are now having a bright spotlight shown on them in this pandemic. What does the COVID-19 project, or the vaccine, the work to get people to get vaccinated, kind of tell you about this larger inequity in the system? And if you were advising the public health department of the city of Philadelphia about how to address some of those inequities, what would you say? This is to Dr. Pitts first, and then it's
sure. You know,
that was a big question, but go ahead.
It was a large question, but you know, I'm sort of stymied in as much as, you know, what would you say to the Philadelphia public health system or department on how to cure this, how to remedy all of what's going on? Yes, COVID.
Because it's bigger than even the public health system itself, right?
Absolutely. It goes into how we get at the problems of, you know, we're seeing this hesitancy. Well, how do we get at the problems of what's going on with the hesitancy? And it's more than mistrust. It's more than the fear that people experience. It's a matter of, well, how have marginalized communities, now we're asking them to trust to be given a vaccine when in fact this marginalized community may have felt ignored by the overall healthcare system and the powers that be for as long as 400 years, right? When, using African Americans as that, that population that we talk about all the time, how do we go back 400 years and say, okay, now we have not given you the dignity and the integrity that we have given other populations, and now we're asking you to take a vaccine. And so how does that lead us not only through this vaccination process, but into an individual taking their blood pressure medication, for example, because their doctor asked them to, or taking their, monitoring their diabetes because they are putting faith in the judgment of their primary care physician, right? And so COVID opens doors into those kinds of conversations. And we want to have that. We don't want to miss this opportunity to really walk through that door and make sure that we, on the other side of this, handle the hypertension, handle the diabetes, all of those that have been there long before COVID was.
Mm-hmm. It's ringing bells for me. I alluded earlier to the fact that I did street outreach as a health worker back in the 90s, late 90s, around HIV, particularly targeting young people who were having unsafe, unprotected sex. And with each conversation that I would have with a young person on the street, there were so many other issues that they were dealing with besides unprotected sex and the risks of HIV or sexually transmitted infection. And we slowly built out our program to expand to meet the growing needs that we were discovering, right? Oh, this person is actually doesn't have a place to live right now, this young person. They've been kicked out of their house. Why would they be concerned about using a condom? Oh, this person hasn't had a shower, or this person actually has other health issues that they're dealing with, or they're living in an abusive situation, and how do we address that? So there's like a myriad of things that people who have been left out of a healthcare system or of any system that has not shown them the care and regard and dignity. There's a multitude of things going on there, and I've talked throughout this pandemic about the need. One of the big things that it's teaching me is like the need to center caring, to center people and their care, as we try to rebuild our society and way of living in these new conditions. Dr. Kogan, what do you think in terms of where you would take this project next, and how to communicate with people? I mean, first, let me just back up for a second and say, the Omicron variant has emerged, and how are you talking with people about that? How is that factoring into how the COVID-19 project is operating now?
So Neil, Dr. Pitts can probably answer this better than me. So it's so new. So far, what I'm hearing is that it actually is getting a lot more people vaccinated. People are scared, but Dr. Pitts is more on the front lines here and can probably speak to that better.
And I'll tell you, what we've seen is pretty much something that we expected, in as much as, and not that we expected the Omicron variant, because we were hoping we would not see another variant, but now that we do, people are really concerned about the uncertainty. We don't know a lot about Omicron still yet, even now. The information is still emerging. In that, people are becoming very concerned about what's next, right? And so in that what's next, looking at, well, maybe I need to get my booster now. And so people are lining up for the boosters. Individuals who said, look, I've had my 2 primary shots, I'm not getting the booster, but they are showing up for the booster. We are now approved for pediatric dosing, and of course, we've been approved for adolescent dosing for a number of months now. People want to keep their children and their adolescents well protected, and so they are showing up. The lines are forming yet again. Individuals who did not want to get their first shots. Yes, we are seeing fewer first shots than we did before, but we are seeing them. And that's a good thing, because people are saying, well, now it's time. Mm-hmm. And so we are noticing this emergence of individuals who are becoming more knowledgeable, more health aware, and particularly as teams such as our vaccination team, armed with the information and the messaging that we get and the support that we get from Dr. Kogan's team, there's a consistency of that message now, right? Mm-hmm. And we continue to show up. And that really has proven to be effective.
And if I could just...
Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
If I could just add to that, I think a big piece of this in terms of how do we get more people vaccinated is really making it as convenient as possible. And that doesn't sound very dramatic or exciting, but that's what people need. And, I talk to people and they say, but it is convenient. You just go to CVS and you just get vaccinated. But it's not that easy. And so, a big part of this project is going, as Dr. Pitts said, going into communities so that people don't have to travel. They can just go a few blocks away and have people there that they trust, or to, have it at some kind of event that people are already going to, even the supermarket, just to make it really easy. As you said, meeting people where they are, making sure they understand that the vaccine is free. People didn't understand that. Making sure people understand that they don't have to show identification. People didn't understand that. Mm-hmm. So, one of the short-term answers that we've been working with a lot is just really making it as easy as possible for the people that are almost there but need some help.
Mm-hmm. I read an article, I believe it was in the Atlantic several weeks ago, about the healthcare system in Costa Rica, which I have an interest in because my brother's family is living there at the moment. And they really have a community-based outreach model where they have healthcare workers who are not doctors, but they're trained healthcare workers who go out and check on different villages and different individual households to see how they're doing. Are you keeping up with your blood pressure meds? Are you, making sure you're doing your exercises or whatever various issues it is? And they talked about the efficiency of that system as well as the comprehensive nature where they're not really leaving anybody out. And yes, that is maybe a more rural environment, and people are in remote areas, and that's part of why they do that. But it struck me as the kind of model that we should be using here, because people do need to be met where they are and build that trust with a person who they can see consistently over time, mm-hmm. that they can have a relationship with. And so I'm just wondering about, in terms of what you're learning through your work, what are some ideas that you would, if we could wave a magic wand and change the healthcare system, at least in our city, is that the kind of thing that you would promote happening? Or what are some of the things and models that you think could be adopted, or ideally could be adopted, to improve the kind of connection with people, to improve their health?
Yeah, just what you said in terms of, the aspect of going door to door, the aspect of community workers, people who are your neighbors, people who are your friends, your families, who are encouraging you to take your blood pressure medicine. They are encouraging you to monitor your diabetes. That's exactly the type of model that we need here, for a couple of reasons. One of which is that it shows that we care about each other. And that's been lost in our society, right? And so we have to come back to that model our healthcare system is overwhelmed. And so if we now have people who are on the ground doing this, and it could take the form of a mobile clinic, for example. It could take the form of a mobile clinic engaging with neighbors that are right on the ground. You can see changes in the paradigm of healthcare even now, because that's really where we are. That's where we're moving, really.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, as we just have a couple minutes left, what are ways that listeners can support maybe loved ones or people they know to get vaccinated who aren't vaccinated now, as people move into this time of coming together around holiday gatherings and everything? What are some do's and don'ts about how to talk to people about getting vaccinated or going to get their booster? Maybe can we start with you, Dr. Kogan, if you have thoughts?
Sure. I mean, I think what I would say is listen. I think as a society, we're in this mode right now where we just want to fight and we want to poke holes in the other person's argument and just wait for a moment where we can get in our fact or make them feel like they don't know what they're talking about. And I would say, make an effort to try to understand what the other person is saying. Don't make it about you. Just try to listen, try to understand their concerns. And if they're concerns that you can help them address, help them.
So listening to understand is very important. Yes. Dr. Pitts, what advice do you have?
Yeah, absolutely. Listening to understand, knowing that individuals have a lot of different priorities. I talked to a gentleman who we were trying to convince to have to accept the vaccination. He asked instead. He said, "All I really want is a shower. I want some Irish Spring soap. And so knowing that people have these kinds of concerns, so listen first for the signal that they have these other concerns. Be patient with them. Don't push. People will dig in, but be patient with them. Remembering that it's a process.
Yes, it is a process, and dialogue and conversation, I think, can get you there if you do have the patience and if you are listening with the true intention of understanding where the other person is coming from. So I want to thank both of you. The conversation, we could have gone in so many different directions. It feels like time flew by, but I just want to appreciate you both for your leadership in this project, for the work that you have been doing to try to close the gap of people, the vaccination gap in the city, particularly in Black and brown communities, underserved communities that have been left out oftentimes. It's so important, and both of you have a wonderful holiday season, and hopefully you'll get some nice rest coming up, and you can finish grading papers or whatever else I know that you academics are doing right now.
Yes, there's lots of that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everything to you. Thank you to my partner, Dr. Kogan, for her leadership in this. We really appreciate that.
Thank you as well. Thanks all around.
All right. You're listening to Solutions on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. We'll be back after this break.
Tried Eucrisa for mild to moderate eczema? It works at and below the skin surface and can be used on almost everybody, like on the dimples of a diva.
Yeah, roll your boat. Yeah, roll your boat.
Or the shoulders of a chef.
Look, Mom, I made jelly beans on toast.
Steroid-free Eucrisa works at and below the skin surface. It blocks PDE4 enzymes, which is believed to reduce inflammation, even on the wrist of a rebel.
What did you do to your hair?
What?
The specific way Eucrisa works is not well defined. Prescription Eucrisa for mild to moderate eczema is for topical use only in ages 3 months and up. Do not use if you are allergic to Eucrisa, crisaborole ointment 2%, or its ingredients. Allergic reactions, including hives, itching, swelling, and redness, may occur at or near the application site. The most common side effect is application site pain, such as burning or stinging.
Come on, moms and dads. Check out eucrisa.com and ask your doctor about Eucrisa.
Can I sing one more song?
Comcast has built a broadband network with one simple purpose: to keep customers connected every single day. In the last 10 years, we have invested $30 billion and $15 billion since 2017 alone to keep America's largest gig-speed broadband network fast, secure, and reliable. Because more Americans rely on Comcast to stay connected, we work around the clock to build a better network every single day. Comcast. Better today, even better tomorrow. Learn more at Comcast.com/network.
My Independence at Home is hiring. If you are a CNA, HHA, or personal care attendant looking to join a home care agency with great perks, please give us a call today, 215-921-2277.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk media. Words of empowerment.
Black joy is first breath taking flight, uttering freedom through giggles, shrieks, and wails of unknown optimism. Knowing you are exceptional with life, unprepared to take you as you are, you soar with magnificence anyway. Leaping latitudes with clicked cameras and quickened quills, marveling majesty, manifesting gems, stems befitting roses, rooted in daybreak's memory. Abundant wishes and prayers line your backbone, scribing serum to your heartbeat. Black joy is... Black joy is you, your essence smelling of the sea, your words feeling like mountain air, your touch the flavor of 1,000 herbs, you designed for greatness, inking fate through your legacy. Black joy is you. I am T.S. Hawkins, an author, an art activist, and I am uplifting and empowering women with WURD, progressive Black talk media.
Stay tuned to the 2021 Word Empowerment Experience. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live on WURDradio.com, the WURD Radio app, or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. WURD Radio, independent Black media. You're listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions on WURD. This is Amadi Braxton, your host, and we are on Black Progressive Talk Media. Hey, WURD family. In this season of giving, WURD, in partnership with the Philadelphia chapter of 12 Days of Christmas, Inc., is joining together to bring joy to the lives of underserved families in our communities. Join or renew your 4WURD membership, and $15 will go toward the purchase of Christmas gifts for underserved children and families. And if you're already a member and wish to donate, call WURD Radio at 215-425-7875. That's 215-425-7875 for more information. Give the gift of WURD and bring joy to those in need. I really enjoyed listening to and being in conversation with Dr. Cornelius Pitts and Dr. Lauren Kogan of the Temple University's COVID-19 vaccination project, and really took an interest, as you heard me allude to my past work as a healthcare outreach worker, really took an interest in this approach of going out, meeting people where they are, and addressing their needs and the barriers that they face in getting the vaccine. Not everybody has the convenience of a CVS in walking distance from their house, or a pharmacy in walking distance from their house where they can go get the vaccine. Not everybody is aware that the vaccine is actually provided free of charge. Not everybody is aware that they don't need an identification, like a photo ID, in order to get the vaccine. Not everyone is aware of the range of side effects or what they might expect if they get the vaccine. There are a whole host of things that present themselves either as psychological barriers or actual physical barriers to people getting vaccinated. And I think we need to shift, and I say this myself included, we need to shift our attitude toward those who are unvaccinated in our communities here, from one of blaming and shaming and saying, why don't those idiots get vaccinated, to one of, as we closed that interview, openness, patience, listening to understand, and seeking to support people overcoming their hesitancy with information, validation, and meeting the other needs that may precede the need for a vaccination. So I want to just go to some of our folks who are watching and listening on Facebook Live, commenting about the vaccine question. Valentine King says, a recent report stated how much of getting vaccinated seems related to politics. 96% of people who voted Democrats are vaccinated. 79% of those, 79% of independents are vaccinated, and only 54% of Republicans. That's interesting, and that seems to be a national statistic. You know, we have low vaccination rates here in Philadelphia among maybe people who would consider themselves to be Democrats or independents, or maybe those who are not engaged in the political process at all, and for the reasons that we've stated. Casa Husara says, how can one vaccine fit all the variants and COVID-19 and Delta that's coming out? I think that's a great question. I know that for the mRNA type vaccines, the Moderna and Pfizer, that they can recognize enough in the different variants, they can that those vaccines can still recognize the essential elements. If you were to be infected by, let's say, the Omicron variant, that the vaccines can recognize that that is still COVID, even though it's a variation on the initial virus, COVID-19 virus that came out. And then how do variants come about is another question. Variants come about because, and I'm not a scientist, but my layperson's understanding is that as the virus spreads, maybe the original virus spreads in unvaccinated populations, it mutates and changes and morphs, and so those morphed versions of the virus are called variants. And you know, when a virus enters into different bodies, it can change form. And so certain variants take hold and can spread. And we know that the Omicron variant is particularly easy to spread. So thank you for those comments and questions. And appreciate those who are checking us out. I also see Shalada on there as well. So I would love to hear from you, would love to hear your comments on the last interview and what our guests were talking about, what you're thinking about related to the Omicron variant as we enter this, for those who celebrate Christmas, we enter Christmas week coming up, but just all around this period of holiday celebrations. And also, we've had a few days of more mild weather, but as the weather gets colder and colder, and we might kind of bounce back into our colder days, what are your concerns about being indoors with loved ones? What are your concerns about, you know, Omicron spreading, those in your life who are vaccinated or maybe unvaccinated? How have you had successful conversations that encourage people in your life to get vaccinated? What have been the challenges with that? I'm very curious to hear what's happening for you and what is your orientation in this holiday season related to the COVID situation right now. Also, I alluded to last week, I had seen a headline about the fact that the city will now require proof of vaccination beginning, I believe, January 3rd for all indoor dining, indoor drinking establishments, and other indoor establishments where entertainment happens, whether that be movie theaters, bowling alleys, etc. There are already a number of restaurants, and I went to a bowling alley the other night, and they required proof of vaccination as well. They were quite strict about it, actually. So that will be citywide. it won't be up to the business now. It will be required. I did note that in a more recent article that I saw about it, they said that people will be required to show proof of if you got the Johnson & Johnson, 1 vaccination. If you got the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine, you have to show that you got the 2 shots, which is required for those vaccinations for you to be fully vaccinated. But I'm wondering why they're not requiring the booster, because what we're hearing is that for those who have gotten the vaccines from the early days, like I did, your protection against COVID has diminished greatly unless you've gotten the booster, which I have. So I'm curious about that. If people have gotten their vaccinations more recently, a closer period to the new year, then you are much more protected than somebody like I would be if I had not gotten my booster shot. So very curious what you think about that. You can, of course, join the conversation at 215-634-8065, 215-634-8065. And what do you think about this notion about changing our model of healthcare, changing our model of actually, instead of making people go into a doctor's office, what about allowing them to be at home and having a healthcare worker come out to them? What I learned about what they do in Costa Rica was that they have, yes, doctors are involved. It's not just non-doctor healthcare workers, but the healthcare workers kind of are on the front lines. They're trained to assess what's happening for people in their homes, and they input that data electronically. It goes into a central database where doctors can then review the information and see what else might be needed for that individual who lives in that particular area. And it is an effective and less expensive way to run healthcare when you have a decentralized kind of web of care that spans out across the country. And if you can imagine that in the city of Philadelphia, what would that look like? Teams of healthcare workers, mobile clinics showing up on certain, weekly maybe in certain neighborhoods at certain times where people could get checked, where people could get their questions answered. And if there's something further that's needed, they could be put in connection with a doctor. I think that would be interesting. I think that would be helpful. I mean, now we see, at job fairs or different events, there'll be health screenings, right? There'll be a table where you can get a health screening. But that is so, few and far between. That is sporadic, right? Yes, it's great when there's a health fair that people show up to get their blood pressure checked or get other things checked, but how about that is a regular thing that people could get done in their own neighborhood where they don't have to travel far, and then save the doctor's visits for more serious or acute issues that they need to deal with. So I think that's a good solution. All right, let's go to Dwayne in Southwest Philly.
Yes, how you doing?
Doing well, Mr. Dwayne. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Oh yeah, I'm against the vaccine. I'm against what they're gonna do the 23rd next year.
It's January 3rd. They're going to require that people show proof of vaccination to enter into any food establishment, drink establishment, or movie theater or other entertainment establishment.
No, I think let's see this. I'm against them forcing the vaccine in people. I'm against all that stuff. See, I think what it is going to cause a lot of trouble. Number one, it's going to cause fights and stuff because, they had trouble with a mask. It was a security guard telling somebody put on a mask. It was a fight. They beat up, I think, the security guard. And thing about it, and then I think what's going to happen, too, is going to hurt the black vendors. Because, some of these black vendors are slow anyway. Because a lot of these black people ain't going to go in there. Because you got a lot of black people ain't going to take the vaccine. You got black people that go in the restaurants. And now, you know, I think it's going to hurt the black business. It's going to hurt the whole lot. Now, I'm going to time you go.
Well, here's my question. What is more hurtful? People coming into an establishment and getting COVID? The workers in that establishment getting COVID and then them not having workers? I mean, what do you think is most harmful to a business? That their workers get sick, or that they themselves get sick because they have people coming in with no masks, or, you know, who are maybe infectious and aren't vaccinated? I mean, what is worse?
No, but you know what? Even with the vaccine, you could still get the virus. You could still get it, because, you know, my brother died. He was 40 vaccines. He still was on the machine, and he still died. There's no guarantee you're not going to get the virus because your vaccine.
Right. I think the vaccine prevents you from becoming seriously ill, and most people who are vaccinated, most of the people who are getting seriously ill or ending up in the hospital because of the virus are people who are not vaccinated. I think it is a rare occasion where if somebody has other serious underlying health issues or health conditions, and maybe have been vaccinated, and then they also get the virus, it also depends on how long ago they were vaccinated, and maybe the protection that they received from that has gone down because so much time has passed, because you really need to now get the booster as well.
Well, you know what? To me, I'm against all that. You know, it's a doctor comes on on Saturday from I think 8 o'clock to 8:30. He gets that vaccine. And he's been a doctor 50 years, and he told me to get that vaccine.
Where are you seeing this doctor? On Facebook somewhere?
No, WWR. He's on WWR. He comes on Saturday on 8 o'clock to 8:30. He gets that vaccine.
All right. Well, I don't know, Mr. Dwayne. I don't know about this doctor, but the vast majority of the medical community, black doctors included, there was a black doctor that did the key research on the Moderna vaccine. The vast majority of doctors support vaccination as a important healthcare measure. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to have to disagree. I hope that you stay safe. I hope that maybe you'll change your mind about getting vaccinated yourself, because we want you to stay safe and we want you to live. Thank you, Dwayne, for calling in with your view. I happen to disagree strongly with it, but I respect you. All right. We're up on our break. You are listening to Solutions on Word with Amadi Braxton, Progressive Black Talk Media. We'll be right back.
Somebody's always trying to reach into your purse or pocket to take your money. AARP understands this holiday season is for giving, but for scammers, it's the season for taking. A new AARP research fraud report revealed 41% of black adults have been targeted by a scam. 60% of black adults who lost money to a scam lost money more than once. Overall, black adults are targeted with government imposter scams, especially IRS, the most, followed by lottery, fake job postings, and romance and dating scams. Now it's time to engage your inner skeptic to help you avoid and spot common frauds like charity scams, gift card fraud, and online shopping scams. The AARP Fraud Watch Network is working to empower you to protect yourself from fraud and scams. Learn more at aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network or call the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline at 877-908-3360. It's your money, so keep it.
Tune in to Andrea Lawful Sanders' Financial Literacy segment on Monday, December 27th at 3 p.m. Sponsored by Wisfis Bank. For more information on boosting your financial know-how, visit the Knowledge Center at wisfisbank.com. WSFS Bank. We stand for service.
This holiday season, my good friend gave to me 7 Powerball tickets, 6 match 6 chances, 5 cash vibes, 4 cash for lives, 3 pick 3s, 2 mega millions.
Pennsylvania lottery tickets make great gifts, like the new Miriam Bright, with top prizes of $1 million. Players must be 18 or older. Please play responsibly. Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day.
And best wishes from the lottery.
WURD family. WURD Radio's 12 Days of Christmas campaign, presented in partnership with the Philadelphia chapter of 12 Days of Christmas, Inc., is quickly coming to a close. Start or renew your 4WURD membership by this Friday, December 17th, and $15 will go toward the purchase of Christmas gifts for underserved children and families in our communities. And if you're already a member and wish to donate, call WURD Radio at 215-425-7875. This season, get the gift of WURD and give the gift of joy to family and children right here in our communities. Start or renew your membership now at wordradio.com. You're listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. This is your host, Amani Braxton. Welcome back. And I want to just give a shout out to somebody I overlooked on Facebook Live, which is Raphael Suleiman. Raphael, shouting out to you. Thank you for watching. And I'm encourage you to call, share your opinion about the COVID vaccination conversation we've been having, or any of the other topics that I raised at the top of the show. 215-634-8065. The fact that Derek Chauvin has pled guilty to violating George Floyd's civil rights in the federal civil rights case that was against him, and that he will be allowed to serve the sentence for this concurrently or simultaneously with his criminal sentence that he received of 22.5 years. If you have thoughts about the special congressional committee investigating January 6th, and all of the stuff that's coming out about the Congress members that were involved in plotting this attempted coup of the United States of America. Very curious to hear your thoughts about that. And also, whether you think that Biden prioritizing voting rights is the right thing to do, having that jump the line in his legislative priorities ahead of finishing the Build Back Better plan, and whether you think either of them can actually be passed, given the state of the Senate and the intransigence and stubbornness of Senator Joe Manchin. And in a little bit, we're going to get into a conversation about bell hooks. So I encourage you to call, share your thoughts, 215-634-8065 or 1-866-361-0900. I see Sharon in Southwest Philadelphia.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I was watching the news and I seen a road rage incident, and I think it's such a shame the way that the girl got beat up.
Tell me about it. I missed that one.
Well, in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, it was a road rage incident. And a young lady was pulled out her car, and she was stomped, and she was beaten really bad. And she was unconscious. You know, I think it's a shame the way, the black-on-black crime, they say black lives matter, but the way she was beaten by black people, it don't make no sense. Really, it's sad, isn't it?
Wow, that is sad. I hadn't heard about that story.
She was pulled out the car and just beaten and stomped and just, it's a shame. It really is. That's all I wanted to say. Have a good weekend, all right? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Wow. I hadn't heard about that story, but that is, that's really a tragedy. And I don't know what is going on with the people who did that to her, but that is some unchecked rage, boy, that's for sure. I'm very sorry to hear that story. I want to pivot back to the question about the voting rights being moved up as priority legislation. Last week we had on the show Kadita Kenner, who is the new executive director of the new organization, New Pennsylvania Project, I believe, that is working on voting rights in the state of Pennsylvania, and they were modeled after the New Georgia Project. I continue to come back to I think the point that was raised last week, the fact that the Democratic Party has a serious problem with messaging, has a serious problem with explaining itself to the average person what the priorities are and why, what are the policies that they're trying to push forward and why, what is inside the legislation that they're trying to pass and prioritize, why it's important, why it matters to people's lives. To me, any movement, any possibility for movement forward on these different pieces of legislation have to come about by talking about the legislation, talking about what's in it, talking about why it's important. I think that, you know, those of us who are maybe paying closer attention have a sense of why the voting rights legislation is important. We recognize that there is a rollback of democratic principles and processes in this country, like voting, targeting Black voters in particular. But until we get more people than just us focused on this as a priority, and until we get more conversation, more messages out from the highest levels of government about what is critical here and have that resonate and reverberate in our daily conversations, in the barbershops, in the beauty salons, in our restaurants, at the bus stop or on the subway platform, these things aren't going to move ahead. And so to me, a big challenge with moving this stuff forward is the lack of conversation, the lack of knowledge about what is in the pieces of legislation, and you know, I think the media gets very focused on the behind the scenes machinations, the negotiations with Manchin, the ins and outs and ups and downs of that process, what is being traded off in exchange for something else in the legislation, in the legislative package, the personalities involved of the politicians and all of that kind of stuff that to me is not the substance of the issue. The substance of the issue is what is at stake. The substance of the issue is who's being left out with the voting legislation that is being passed at the state level across the country. To me, those are the things that need to be discussed at every level across the country. And again, we need to hear it from the White House all the way down to the barbershop. That has to be what's going on. So to me, without those conversations happening, nothing will shift. Because with those conversations, we have the potential to build political pressure. We have the potential to actually engage with our legislators and our elected officials. If there's enough of a groundswell, we can take action and push them to actually make changes and to make it uncomfortable for them to go against our will. And that's what Khadija Kenner was talking about on the show last week from the New Pennsylvania Project. We have to make it so the political powers that be, the politicians, are afraid of us. That is what we have to do. So how do we do that? I'm curious as to what you think. How do we make the politicians afraid of us? That is my question. I'm eager to hear your thoughts about that. 215-634-8065 or 1-866-361-0900. One of the ways we make them afraid of us is through the power of our vote. And if that is being taken away, what do we do then? So that, you know, that is, that's part of the issue that we have to address. I will still take your calls on that topic or any of the other topics, but I want to shift to another thing that I thought was of interest. I said I wanted to talk about bell hooks, and I will do that. But I also want to talk about another great thinker, writer, mind and human who passed last week, Greg Tate, a very important cultural critic, music critic, writer, who passed away last week. Trying to remember what age he passed. He's such a significant person. He was only 64. He was an essayist and a chronicler of hip hop, a chronicler of the art and Black art and culture. He was a writer for the Village Voice for a number of years. He helped really elevate hip hop to the same plane as jazz, I would say. And he was just a phenomenal writer. He almost wrote in the style of an avant-garde jazz musician, just in terms of the way he used his words. He started his career in the 80s in the New York cultural scene. He was a graduate of Howard University. He wrote a lot of articles critiquing and analyzing Black cultural expression through music, through art, again, hip hop, jazz. He was extremely well read, extremely knowledgeable about Black artistic expression, and he really was one of the big celebrants of Black culture. He wrote a book, Flyboy in the Buttermilk, Essays on Contemporary America, an eye-opening look at race, politics, literature, and music, which I highly recommend. It was a compendium of his articles from the Village Voice. And then he wrote a book called, I believe it's called Everything But the Burden, which was a look at the way white appropriation of Black culture occurred, and how the shift in hip hop, where it became a more mainstream musical product, I would say, that was purchased more by white suburban kids than by African Americans at a certain point. He was also a musician. I just wanted to acknowledge him and acknowledge his passage into the realm of the ancestors, and acknowledge the profound impact he had while he was living. And so if you're interested in his work, I would Google Greg Tate. If you haven't heard of him, Google Greg Tate. I want to turn now to bell hooks. I have been reading a lot in the last couple of days to learn more about her life than I knew before. I know that Belle was a real big influence on me in terms of how I felt, how I understood myself as a Black woman at a young age, coming up when I was a college student, and how she was really the first person to, I don't know if the first, but for me, she was somebody who really broke ground in the realm of Black feminist thought, in that she insisted on feminism not leaving out Black women and working class Black women in particular, and also insisted on understanding racism and the ways that it oftentimes did not understand the unique experience of Black women, and that our understanding of racism was often discussed in terms of its impact on Black men. And so in that way, she was really bringing together an understanding of the ways that gender and race and capitalism and these different intersecting systems of oppression actually impact real people's lives. And she pushed forward these ideas outside of the realm of the academy. And, you know, like most Black public intellectuals, they're public because they speak to the realities of daily life, and they don't just keep it inside the academy. She also wrote 40 books, which is a phenomenal accomplishment. Remember, she died at age 69 on Wednesday. She wrote 40 books. In some periods of her life, she was writing and publishing a book a year. And she wrote a range of different kinds of books, from poetry to children's books to academic books to essays. I want to just share with you, you know, I was looking at several pieces that have been written about her in the last 24 hours. And what struck me was that so many of them quoted so many different people who talked about her influence on them. And I just want to share some of the writings to give you a sense of the way that, if you're not familiar with her work, the way that she impacted people. One person says, "I wouldn't be a writer without bell hooks. By the time I met Bell in the early 90s, her work had already entered me and changed me. I had already read Sisters of the Yam, which taught me the value and power of sisterhood and communal healing through providing a safe space for Black women to heal. I became a feminist because of Bell. I eventually took a job as a writer in residence at Berea College, where she was a scholar in residence, in part to be closer to her. After each visit, I drove back to Lexington from her home in Berea buzzing, motivated to make a change, to write more, to resist more. She was my friend and didn't like me to refer to her as my mentor or teacher, but she still taught me." And that's from Crystal Wilkinson. Another says, "I first read bell hooks after sneaking All About Love from my mother's bookshelf while I was in middle school. It was the first thing I'd read that gave me the sense of love's overwhelming clutch on my sensibilities. It was the first thing I'd read that gave me permission to be sensitive and to give love generously. Bell Hooks' scholarship, her criticism, her prose have given permission to a generation of artists and thinkers in perpetuity. We are a different people today because of her." And that is from Kamungi Felix. One of the things, I'll just pause there, one of the things that I remember about bell hooks, because I saw her give a lecture at my University of Pennsylvania, she was very bold. She was very unflinching. She didn't care who she offended. She spoke truth to power. She would drop F-bombs in the middle of formal academic lectures if she thought it would make her point stronger. She had no problem with that. And she didn't care if she was alienated by anybody. She always spoke her truth, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about her. We're up on our final break now, and on the other side of the break, we will take a caller, and we will wrap up. You're listening to Solutions on Word with Amadi Braxton. Progressive Black Talk Media. We'll be right back.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip-hop, or house, country, techno, or techno-country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Spectrum Health Services, a community health center providing medical, dental, podiatry, behavioral health, and a host of other social services, is looking for medical assistants, patient service representatives, registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, and nurse practitioners who possess professional excellence and world-class service delivery in their DNA. If this is truly you, come work your life's passion and earn your living where your heart is at www.spectrumhs.org/careers.
The Morris Arboretum invites you and your family to experience its much-loved Holiday Garden Railway, running now through January 2nd. This quarter-mile trek winds through a magical miniature world featuring bustling model trains, historic buildings, bridges, and more, all decorated with thousands of twinkling lights and set in a spectacular winter landscape. Daytime display included with Arboretum admission, nighttime display with advanced tickets. Visit morrisarboretum.org too for details. The Philly Pops is proud to support WURD. The Jazz Orchestra of Philadelphia presents Harlem Nutcracker, December 18th at the Annenberg Center. Join the Philly Pops artistic director for jazz and conductor Terrell Stafford and guest artist Charles McPherson and Jaleel Shaw for Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn's Harlem Nutcracker, with favorites like Peanut Brittle Brigade and Sugar Rum Cherry. One night only. The Jazz Orchestra of Philadelphia presents Harlem Nutcracker, December 18th at 8 p.m. Get tickets today at phillypops.org.
WURD Radio is sharing a harvest for the world. From now through December 31st, visit WURDradio.com each week to find information on upcoming giveback events in Philadelphia. We'll feature organizations hosting free food and clothing giveaways, workshops, and more. This is the season of giving back, and WURD Radio will make sure you have a seat at the table. For more information, visit WURDradio.com. You're listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions, Progressive Black Talk Media. This is Amadi Braxton. I just want to share a little bit more about Bell Hooks as we celebrate her life. She passed into the realm of the ancestors Wednesday afternoon. Profound thinker, influential theorist, writer, author of children's books, author of essays, author of poems, and somebody who had a profound influence on me as a young black woman. I'll just tell you a little bit about her, and I encourage those of you who have not heard of Bell Hooks to please look her up. If you have heard of her and want to share your own recollection of her, how she influenced you, I encourage you to call and share your thoughts at 215-634-8065 or 1-866-361-0900. Bell Hooks was born in Hopkinsville, Kentucky through her childhood in the semi-rural South. She was exposed to vicious examples of white supremacy, but her tight-knit black community in Hopkinsville, Kentucky showed her the possibility of resistance from the margins, of finding community among the oppressed and drawing power from those connections, a theme to which she would return frequently in her work. Her father was a postal worker, her mother was a homemaker. Along with her sister, she's survived by 3 other sisters and a brother. Her early education took place in segregated schools, though she moved to white majority schools once the state integrated its education system. An experience in navigating complex racial and gender hierarchies that she later drew on in her memoir called Bone Black: Memories of Girlhood. She was an avid reader, vacuuming up books and reading long past her bedtime. She dreamed of becoming an architect and of leaving her small hometown of Kentucky behind. She learned to read and write at an early age, and every night, her sister says, we would try to sleep, but the sounds of her writing or page turning caused us to yell down to Mom to make her turn off the light. She began her climb at Stanford University, from which she graduated in 1974 with a degree in English literature. While still an undergraduate, she began writing her first book, Ain't I a Woman?, with its title borrowed from a speech by the Black abolitionist Sojourner Truth. She received a master's degree in English from the University of Wisconsin in 1976 and a doctorate in literature from University of California, Santa Cruz in 1983 with her dissertation on Toni Morrison. Her book, a collection of poems, And There We Wept, was published in 1978, and it was the first time she used her pen name Bell Hooks, which Bell and Hooks are not capitalized, and it was in homage to her maternal great-grandmother, Belle Blair Hooks, to whom she was often compared as a child. After teaching at a number of institutions, including Yale, where she met and became close friends with Dr. Cornel West, she also taught at Oberlin, the City College of New York. She returned to Kentucky in 2004 to teach at Berea College, and a decade later, the college created the Bell Hooks Institute as a center for her writing and teaching. Later in her life, she described herself as a Buddhist Christian and spoke often of her friendship with the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, insisting that love was the only way to overcome what she called the imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. She said, "I believe wholeheartedly that the only way out of domination is love. And the only way into really being able to connect with others and to know how to be is to be participating in every aspect of your life as a sacrament of love." So that is my sharing on Bell Hooks. I urge you to look her up if you don't know about her. And if you do know about her, pull out one of her books and have a read to celebrate her. I see do we still have Maurice on the line?
Yes, you do.
Hi, Mr. Maurice. Thank you for being patient.
You know what I'm upset about? How come we never heard about Bell Hooks from anybody on URD before?
I don't know why you didn't.
But that's what I'm saying. Now we want to give her flowers when she's gone. But when she was alive, we didn't know nothing about her. So what amazes me, that everybody wants to give all these testimonials when somebody's gone, but don't want to give them their flowers when they're alive. But my problem is with this radio station right now and this show is that the only thing we need to be concerned about is the murders. We act like it's common, like it's normal, like breathing air right now. Everybody has a committee, everybody has a group, everybody has a nonprofit, and nothing is being done. We have no direction from our city officials on what to do. All they're doing is handing it over to the death hustlers, and then when they fail, they take no responsibility and blame it on them and say, hey, we gave them money, how come the crime didn't stop? Our police commissioner is out here phony as can be. Nobody wanted her in New York. She has no track record. They had news reports like it was a chance of her leaving. I would buy the bus ticket. She's done nothing since she's been here but cost us money and lawsuits. So I don't understand why, as a black station, we don't speak up and say anything about that, because if he was a white guy from Kentucky, we'd be out in the streets marching right now.
Well, Maurice, I have to say there are lots of people talking about this on this radio station. We can't spend every moment of every show talking about the murder rate in the city. There's other things also to talk about. And I recognize that it's a serious issue. I've covered the violence on this show before, and there are a lot of things happening right now behind the scenes to work on this issue. Maybe it's not getting all the headlines, but there are community groups that are working on this issue. There are, there's the Violence Task Force and the DA's office and the police department working on this issue. There is a restorative justice process happening in different parts of the community to try to prevent the next shooters from being born. There are a lot of things happening. And so I think it's important to acknowledge the good as well as critique when it's necessary. But we can't always be only critiquing. We have to acknowledge the good. We have to allow energy of the good to come in. So I'm going to leave it there tonight with you, Maurice, because I think that, well, I'll say that I hope that you can discover something about bell hooks as well, because instead of saying, oh, wow, she's interesting, I'm glad I know about her now, you immediately went to, how come we haven't heard about her before? So I'm inviting you into a different frame for yourself and for the rest of our listeners, which is one of openness and curiosity. With that, we have come to the end of our show. I wanted to shout out one other thing that I saw this week that I would encourage people to check out if they haven't already seen it. The film Passing, which is based on the novel by Nella Larson from the 1920s about two black women who are friends. One of them can pass for white, and the experience of how that impacts their relationship and their friendship in 1920s Harlem. It is a new version of a previously done film from many, many, many years ago that I think is very well done, that stars Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson and Andre Holland. I believe it is on Netflix. I highly recommend it. It is beautifully done. I wish everybody a wonderful Christmas week, if that's what you celebrate, a wonderful holiday season. I encourage you to be safe. If you need to say no to a holiday gathering because you know it won't be safe, you should say no. Stay tuned for Envy McKee, who is celebrating a birthday. Envy McKee is up next. Enjoy her. Peace. Happy holidays.